this session, just for so if there's people who want to catch it on the replay. So I've started recording, and I'm going to just some simple housekeeping rules. So first of all, welcome to the June meeting of KWCREI, Kitchener-Waterloo Cambridge Real Estate Investors Group. We are currently, as you know, on COVID, having webinars. We usually have live meetings at the Cambridge Hotel and Conference Center, usually on the last Wednesday of every month. But with the lockdown restrictions extending now into the end of June, that is not going to happen for a little while longer yet. So the beauty of technology is enabling us to have a interactive session. So I am so thrilled to have our guest here tonight, Alfonso Cuadra. He and I go back a few years. We have known one another since probably 2017, and I am a former workshop consultant for Keyspire, and so that's how Alfonso and I met. Alfonso is one of the key speakers. There were a 3-day workshop, and so that's how we first came to know one another. But since that time, I absolutely adore this man. He has high energy. He is wonderfully diverse in his experience. He's a true entrepreneur and a gentle man. He is in the true essence of that word, a gentleman. So I'm so pleased that he accepted the invitation to come and speak here tonight. And it's going to be a very informal evening. It's an interview, but I really would like to have everyone hear about who he is, where he came from, his challenges that I don't want to give it away, but he has an amazing story of who he is if you don't know Alfonso. And but he has accomplished so much and continues to do so much. So I have prepared some questions that I'd like to ask him. What I'd like to do, though, is I'm going to ask everybody to mute and also to turn off your videos, just so it's a little bit less distracting for us as speakers. And thank you. And there will be an opportunity for live questions. So as he's speaking, or if there's something that comes up, please, I will monitor the chat box. And as there's an appropriate moment or break in the conversation, I will ask Alfonso your questions. But I will open it up to general questions in the last 10-15 minutes of this evening's conversation. So don't feel that you won't be able to ask him a question directly. So, and with that, I had some notes here I just wanted to make sure I referred to. But welcome, Alfonso. So I'm so pleased you've been able to join us tonight.
Wow, thank you, Anna. And a gentleman, I love that.
That wasn't rehearsed, it just came to me. I thought, oh my gosh, he is the true essence of a gentleman. So
yeah, well, you know what, I love people. You know that. I love people, and I just genuinely want the best, and I believe in everyone. And I'm glad you took that away.
So I know what I wanted to do. You had also provided me with some a little bit of information about who you were, but maybe you say it better. You've done it, you've lived it. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Okay, well, I won't go too much into this. I'll give you the synopsis, okay? Yeah. Born in Central America, war-torn country. I was actually in 2 wars. Immigrated to Canada as a refugee from El Salvador, and had trouble integrating into the schools, and ended up dropping out of high school at 15. Ended up leaving home as well, homeless. Had really dark moments, just like everybody else. We've all had some dark moments in our lives. Panhandling for change, just really dark, tough times in my life at 15 years old, if you can imagine. And I had a life-changing moment. It was the day that my daughter was born, the day I became a father at 17 years old. I decided to get my stuff. I don't know if we can curse on here, I'm not sure. But
sure, yeah.
I got my stuff together.
Yeah.
And went back to school, started a business at 17 years old. Before I was 20, that business was a multi-million-dollar business. Took that business across Canada. Almost lost everything because I was very much a consumer-minded individual. I had no prior financial education. So all the money that I was making, I was pretty much buying stuff, and almost went bankrupt before the age of 24. And could have lost everything until I realized, that I needed to become an investor. And I wanted to create multiple streams of income. And I wanted to have one of these streams to be completely indestructible. And that's why I chose real estate so long ago. And specifically, multifamily apartment buildings. I've become the apartment building whisperer across Canada. I own hundreds of units all across Canada, many different provinces across Canada. And my goal is to get to 7,500 doors within the next 5 years, and within the next 10 years, 75,000. So
Wow.
That's pretty much me in a nutshell. I own 11 companies, and the Quadra group of companies, and I enjoy people. I speak, I train. I started a youth foundation to teach these types of mindset, this ideology to young people, financial literacy, investing, the differences between consumer mindset, investor mindset, and it's an event-based foundation and organization where we go around North America, training young people on success.
Wow, that's fantastic. It's phenomenal.
Was that short enough?
That's short. Yes, that's amazing. I was going to ask you, what do you do in your spare time, if you have any spare time?
Oh, spare time is very precious to me.
Yeah.
I spend my time with my family.
Mm-hmm. Tell us a bit about your family. You've got two lovely daughters and
Two
lovely
beautiful,
wife.
yeah, lovely wife, two beautiful daughters, two stepkids, if you will, and I love spending time with them. That's why I do it, to create the
Mm-hmm.
freedom to spend time with them.
Mm-hmm. And your mom, of course, she's a big influence
Oh,
in your life.
my mom is one of my biggest mentors in my life, and she went through a tough time. I talked little bit about it, but yeah, we were in a war-torn country, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, now more than ever.
Yes, no, that's fantastic. So you're mentioning that you started, how long ago did you start investing in real estate? I know it was a
About
big decision.
21 years ago.
21 years ago. And what did your portfolio look like when you first started?
It was bad.
Bad.
Well, just like I think like a lot of people were, and I always get this question, and like someone says to me, you know what, I got Alfonso, you know what to do with money. Like I got $10,000 here. Like where should I put it? What's the neighborhood, right? Like people say, what's
Mhm.
that? Give me the magic pill. Everybody's looking for the magic pill, and I always tell people, listen, the very first thing that you have to do is educate yourself. You need to know and learn to be able to identify a deal. If not,
Right. Yeah.
you're going to get into the wrong deals. And so you're going to wish you would have taken that $10,000 and invested it back into yourself. And
Right.
so that's where I start with anybody. I didn't have much education when I first started in investing, especially financial education. So I did the what everybody else does, is buy the onesie. I
Yeah.
bought a single family house, and fortunately, um, I put a unit in the basement, but the problem with that single family house, I have to live somewhere, and there's just not enough cash flow, right?
Hmm.
Do the math, that single door, the two doors, they have just too many leaks. There's too many, the expenses don't justify, you can't justify all the expenses with the type of income, especially if you're living in one of the units.
Right.
And so at the very beginning, I had met a mentor, and that's what I suggest everybody, reach out to someone that knows what they're doing, right? And I was just relentless, and I was willing to invest whatever I had to invest into that person teaching me, and quickly realized that I was doing everything wrong.
Hmm.
I sold that single family house and I started investing in multifamily. And so at the very beginning, I was doing a lot of flip to yourselves. You know, like, so for example, my very first deal was a duplex that I was able to convert into a triplex. Within that same month, I was able to, you know, refi the property, pull the money out. And I did that about 10 times that year. And I said to myself, I think we're onto something. And so I just kept repeating and just getting bigger in units.
Mm-hmm. No, it's fantastic. And so what kinds of challenges did you face initially, and how did you overcome those? Or maybe you continue to face some challenges.
You know what? The biggest challenge is, I would say for most investors, is, you know, if I could go back and do it again, okay, let's start there. If I could go back and do it again, I would have leveled up a lot faster and sooner, right? Because pretty much everything that I bought that first year, at some point I had to sell because it no longer made sense because it was just too small for me, right? The problem is we tend to operate based on where we are. We don't operate based on where we're going. And so, you know, once you have real clear goals, then you can now design the entire path. Most people just start and whatever comes their way, right? And so for me, I used to look at, like, I remember I used to look at 10-unit buildings. I was like, oh my God, a 10-unit building, that's like, whoa, you know, that must be a lot of work. But the second I bought my 10-unit building, my first 10-unit building, I said, wait a minute, this is less work than the 3-unit or the 4-unit. And then, you know, the first time I bought the 20-unit, I said, well, this is less work than the 10-unit, you know, and then I bought a 36 and then, and so on and so on. So I guess the biggest hurdle is getting outside of your mind, your head, you know, like most of the time we kind of operate based on our current circumstances, our current credit, what we can afford, the money we have, what we're doing, not really thinking bigger, right? And so thinking big is free. It doesn't cost you anything. And so I would say, you know, the best advice is to just level up from the beginning.
Go big or go home, right?
go big or go home, right? Go big or go home. Because you're going to end up having to go back and selling a lot of these things. And so it's like you almost like you're losing time, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now that's an interesting observation that you made. And now you've graduated to bigger and larger properties, and your vision longer term is incredible. How many? Where are your properties right now? Are they primarily Canada, Ontario?
Yeah, yes. So I operate mostly in 3 regions: out west, Saskatchewan, Alberta. I'm looking at things right now in Alberta as well. Saskatchewan, love Saskatchewan, and Ontario, and then out east, right? New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, those areas. I basically look for a lower cost per unit, affordable rents, secondary markets, apartment buildings, you know, anywhere between 20 to 50 units. And I like it. You know, it's easier to manage. I mean, you know, when you're buying a 20-unit building, it's just, everything becomes easier. There's enough cash flow in the building to be able to hire a maintenance person, a property manager. Things just become easier when you're fixing, you know, instead of fixing 36 roofs, well, I'm going to be fixing 1 roof on a 36-unit building. When people move out of my 36-unit building, well, that's a non-event for me. If you're sitting there with a single or a duplex, well, you either lost 100% of your revenue or 50% of your revenue. Either way, you may not be sleeping that night, right? So I like things to be, you know, really, I like a systematic approach to real estate investing. You know, I kind of stick to one model. And, you know, in the past, you know, people are like, you know, get into some hotels. I was like, no, it sounds exciting, right? Or get into some industrial, you know, buildings, it's not really that exciting, but they're like, oh, the triple net rents. And okay,
Right.
some retail, commercial plazas. I mean, I've seen it all. I've never really, kind of diversed in that way, really.
Right.
Just kind of stick to the apartment building. People need to live somewhere, affordable rents. I don't get into luxury properties. And, having gone through this, this whole COVID situation that we're in right now, it really made me realize how safe I actually was in my investing, and how the investments that I pursued were pretty much Armageddon proof. Now I know.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I used to say Armageddon proof, and I didn't know, but we're knock on wood, but we're on solid ground, and some of our collections, I think this month, were better than before COVID, right? Because we're just so on it, right?
Yeah.
And it's just been a blessing, and it's just kind of like the model that I follow.
Well, and there's a couple, schools of thought that when you invest in a formula or a pattern that is successful, you rinse and repeat. You just keep the same process going because it works really well for you. And it's been proven time and time again that multifamily investments are pretty much recession proof when it comes to this environment that we're in. So, I mean, you segued nicely. One of my questions I was going to ask you about was COVID, and how have you talked about your goals and your objectives, and have those changed at all because of COVID? Are you thinking about doing things a little slightly differently because of it?
Yeah. So first of all, let's start. What is a good goal? A good goal should excite you, but also scare you at the same time. Okay. Yeah. And so when I used to say, in the next 5 years, I want to reach to 7,500 doors. I used to say I was a little bit scared behind it. So it was also excited. It was exciting to even say that, for those words to even come out of my mouth. But I wasn't sure how I was going to get there, but, first of all, March 15th happened. And as you know, March 15th, we were, probably, you were probably the same as me. We're just like, oh my God, what will happen? And so I went right into action, right? I knew that life was not going to be the same ever again. Even back in March 15th, I said, this is because I've been through 9/11, I've been through 2008 as an investor, as a business owner. And so I knew I had to act quickly. First of all, I felt the pressure. I have investors that I have to worry about. I have employees, I have tenants, I have lenders. There's a lot of people that depend on my decisions, right? So I have like a very, it's a small ecosystem, but I don't take that for granted. And I really take that responsibility seriously. And I went right to work. We started sending letters, and we started communicating with our tenants. And the problem was we were challenged with the miscommunication from the leaders, where they were saying that, don't worry, your landlords are getting deferrals. We didn't take one deferral. We have no deferrals whatsoever. So we just needed to communicate with our tenants and let them know that, some of this information applies, but not to us, right? And these are the circumstances. And if you're having issues, call us. Some people called us and we helped them through. You still have to be sympathetic to the situation. And I'm willing to work with you, help you. One guy said, well, I was on the phone with EI for 8 hours. Well, do you have anything else? Do you have anything better to do? Right? What else are you going to be doing? Right? Yeah. And, I said, your job is to be on hold with the eye for 20 hours if you have to. Right? I mean, this is what the circumstances are. And so, we help people, we give them the links and everything. And so we got through April 1st. Right? And April 1st, we were I think 97% collected across Canada. And we were
fantastic.
We were because April 1st for us was just like Judgment Day. We just didn't know what was going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And we needed to take control because we heard some horror stories of some property owners having all the tenants turn against them, you know, and just kind of having this tenant strike or whatever, you know what I mean?
The rent strike.
And so, as you know, I love people, and I'm willing to work with people, and, you know, I'm willing to work with whatever issues you got going on. But at the end of the day, rent is due, right? And it's going to be due next month, and it's going to be due next month. Even though we can't do anything about it today, a lease is a legal binding contract. I don't care what anybody says. I can't go to the grocery store and start grabbing the food off the shelves just because there's a pandemic. I mean, at some point, like we live in a law-abiding country, and so like that's a legal contract, and you have to honor it. And so you don't want to get too far behind. And so after we were, you know, April 1st kind of was behind us, I kind of took a deep breath, and I said, now I know exactly how I'm going to get to the 7,500. And so my activity has actually increased. And, you know, just this month, we're buying four properties just this month.
Wow.
And what I love about it is that everybody is on the same page, right? My best friend right now is the news that's scaring a lot of property owners. And no one knows what's going to happen. Is there going to be hyperinflation? And all these things are really they're really speculation. Everything that anybody says right now is speculation, because at the end of the day, nobody really knows. But what I know is that by the time this entire cycle is done, I'll be plus 5,000 units.
Wow, that's fantastic. I just wanted to share, there's been a couple of comments coming up here, if this is okay, Alfonso, real quickly.
Sure.
Angela Coangelo says, Alfonso, your story and business success are an inspiration. It's good to see you. Ann Bossy from Montreal.
Hello.
Says, Alfonso, I'm a small-time private lender. How can I find out more about your investments and whether I can get on board? So I thought that might be something, if you were going to touch on that. Yeah. Is this a good spot for that, or if you wanted to chat? Because one of the questions I also wanted to ask you too is, when you're looking, you talk about 4 properties this month. What are your criteria for looking for and determining what's a good deal, what's a good opportunity?
Okay, so where did I get my criteria is the question. Like, how did I come up with this formula? So, you know, like I was sharing with you before, in the 90s, I started my business, and I was very successful right out of the gate. And the problem was I was a spender, right? I was a consumer, but, you know, jewelry, cars. I mean, I was 21 years old. Let's
lots of bling.
I mean, you had to go through it. I had to pay somewhere, right? But what I realized after 9/11 is that, and because 9/11 was just like a mini contraction, right? And what 9/11, with that mini contraction, what it showed me is that I was very vulnerable, right? Even though I was making all this money, it could be taken away in an instant, right? So when the business is good when it's good, and then when it's bad, it's really bad. And so this is when I looked for real estate, but I didn't really know what I was looking for. Now comes 2008. And I remember 2008, and everything that's happening in 2000, that happened in 2008 is happening right now. I'll invite everyone here to go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. 2 months ago, I was sharing kind of my ideas on what was going to happen. And I have, like, you know, a few different videos about the impact on the market, and pretty much everything that I've said is happening, right? And so, you know, in 2008, the money just got tight, so tight. You know, nobody wanted to lend. There was no lenders. And I'm talking specifically about apartment buildings. And the only type of lenders that were available were CMHC insured mortgages, right? These are the only money that was available. And so the problem why people don't do that is because their underwriting is very strict, right? They have a certain amount that they allocate for repairs and maintenance. They need to have proper vacancy allowances and all of this. And so usually when people go buy a property, they get they get a shock when they realize that CMHC will value that property less than what they're buying it for. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the underwriters, is the way they underwrite the property. So I said, isn't that interesting, right? The way they underwrite the property. And I started asking questions back then, right? And they want to be safe, right? And so I said, well, if I want to, buy properties and get them to get CMHC to insure my properties, which this is what it's essentially, if you're buying apartment buildings, that's what you want to do. You basically, you're getting eventually, whether at the beginning or at some point in time, you'd want to have a CMHC insured mortgage on it, where they allow you to, they will fund up to 85% of that deal. So you want that, and it's the best interest rates in the country for commercial lending. I just did a deal a month ago at 2%.
Wow.
For a 21 unit building. I mean, you can't get any better than that, right? And here's the sexy part: 40-year AM.
Wow.
Tell me who else would do 40-year AM, right? And so this product is there available for investors. Now, what I saw is, wow, that's the only people that are willing to lend money right now in 2008. Well, I'm just going to follow their formula, and I'm going to buy properties that they would like, that the underwriters would like. And so, for example, they don't like the choppy properties. They like purpose built, right? They don't like retail. They don't like all these, buildings with retail at the bottom. They like multifamily, they like 2 bedrooms. They like, good areas, up and coming areas. Those are the secondary areas, but they need to have there needs to be some sort of a future to it. And they'll underwrite it with repairs and maintenance. They'll underwrite it with the vacancies and property management and all that. And so that's just kind of that's my criteria. And it all came from 2008. And anytime I step into a negotiation, I know that, if I'm buying apartment buildings, I'm dealing with someone that understands that type of underwriting on the other side. I'm talking about the seller. And so it's easy to negotiate with someone that understands that CMHC, it doesn't matter what you are wanting for your property. CMHC is going to come in here, and it's not going to be $2 million. They're going to say 1.8, right? So instead of like going back and forth, why don't we just make this quicker, and let's just put it under contract.
Oh, he's turned
And
off.
so
Okay.
got someone calling me there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, sorry.
No
And so that's kind of my criteria. To answer your question, I follow like the kind of like the underwriting of CMHC, and I'm very conservative. Cash flow, and that cash flow is what helps you weather the storm, right? As we know.
So this is your business model, that you like to buy the properties that are going to be approved by, or you've worked enough and bought enough of these types of properties. Oops, you're a video. That you almost can anticipate what CMHC is going to ask for and want, and will likely get an approval. But as you know, on June 1st, CMHC announced a change in their policy about no longer allowing equity takeouts or equity distributions to shareholders. So is this going to affect your strategy at all going forward?
Okay, so there's no equity takeouts for investors, but you can take equity to buy another property.
Okay.
So as long as it's like they don't want people to be pocketing money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that CMHC, I mean, I'm on the email, everybody's got scared. But if you read the fine print, it says, okay, if you want to do repairs for your property, if you want to do, first of all, you can get more. Like right now, I'm working through 2 CMHC mortgages right now, and new mortgages is fine. There's nothing has changed for
purchase
new product. It's just for the refi, right?
Right.
After
Yeah.
5 years. And so if you're buying something today, at some point, this is exactly what happened 2008, right? Everything just got kind of tight, right? Because everybody's scared. They don't know what's going to happen. So, in 5 years from now, they'll be back to equity takeouts. There's never, that's part of investing in real estate, right? It's just for right now, because everybody made a run for the bank. They're making it. They're saying, you know what? There's going to be rules. We want to know where you're going to put the money, right? So I'm doing a refi right now, and I said I'm buying this property with it. With this money, I'm putting it over here, and they're like, okay, that's fine.
Okay, very good. I'm not sure if we answered Anne's question about how some others can get involved with
Yes.
your investments.
Yeah,
and whether she can get on board.
if anybody has any questions whatsoever, well, first of all, I would encourage everybody to go subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I give a lot of free information on there. My predictions on the market. Of course, nobody has a crystal ball, but it's just kind of like, based on my experience in real estate for the past 20 years, this is where I see things. This is where I see things going. So subscribe to my channel, Alfonso Cuadra on YouTube. And next, anybody could email me, info@alfonsocuadra.com, info@alfonsocuadra.com. And, anything they want to chat about, talk about, just put it in the title, and we go from there.
Very good. I just added that to the chat box here, your info@Alfonso. And I just want to make sure that people didn't put an H in Alfonso.
People do that all the time. I don't know why they do that. It's a Spanish name.
Yes, that's true. So speaking about your YouTube channel, because I did want to just mention, I absolutely love the different presentations, and they're nice and crisp. They're anywhere from like 6 minutes to 20 minutes. Like, they're not long. You're great. It's very conversational. It's the right pace, the right tone. And there was a few that really struck with me. And one of them was the 3 skills that you should have post-COVID. And
Yes.
You talk about, sales skills, leadership skills, and public speaking. Which of those 3 do you think are the most important? Which one's the top one that people should have developed or should continue to develop post-COVID?
I would say public speaking. Well, I mean, they're all so important. It's hard, right? I think public speaking can lead to leadership and sales. Mm-hmm. But if you're able to speak in public and command the attention of a room, then work on leadership. If you're looking to build an organization and lead people, even just your tenants. I mean, we showed leadership in the way we communicated with our tenants, and then this is why they were very receptive to us. And any issues that they were going through, we were able to catch it right away. But sales is another one of those things, and I say this to my oldest daughter. She's now turning 25, if you can believe it. I said, if you learn how to sell, you can get a job anywhere. You can do anything you want. The top earners of our life are salespeople. And so those 3 skills, coming out of COVID, if you have even a little bit of those skills, refine them, work on them, make sure you're better. So post COVID, it's going to be a time where if you have those skill sets, you will be successful in whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's real estate, whatever it is. You're going to be in a position to capture all the opportunities.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and that's why that's probably the best video that I've really enjoyed the most. And I've actually replayed it and stopped and started and said, yeah, like, he's absolutely bang on. that one leads to, they're all interchangeable, as you've said.
Yeah,
Yes, public
yeah,
speaking, once you have that confidence to speak in front of an audience and speak with passion and conviction, which you also do. If you know you're very knowledgeable on your subject matter, it's easier to also feel comfortable and confident in speaking to others as well. So I think that's another skill to have. But the other YouTube video that I really liked was 10 businesses you can start during COVID-19. I think you put like 20 on the list. Like there were so many suggestions and ideas
yeah,
that you had.
yeah. So I'll tell you how. So March 15th, and as you know, I do a lot of speaking all across
Mhm.
North America, and I love it. It's a passion of mine, right? And for the longest time, people said, "Go on YouTube. Go. You should have more videos." And I said, "Well, I just never had time." I always looked at my business, my speaking business, as a recession-proof type of business. Like, I mean, as long as they don't cut off my tongue, I mean, I'm able to, I can generate income using what I know.
Mhm.
And it was like in an instant that was gone, right? No events, no speaking gigs, right?
Right.
And so everything kind of like pivoted and went kind of online, right? Like, for example, this meeting that we're having right now with, I don't know how many people are on here right now, but like, nobody's leaving. Everybody can do this from the comfort of their own home.
That's right.
And it's just kind of like I think there's going to be a change in human behavior moving forward. And as a result, there's a ton of businesses that you can open. And so for me, I jumped on YouTube. I thought about it like, okay, I'll just come and, I'm not a techie person. I mean, I most of everything is shot. It's all done one shot, one take, and whatever comes out comes out. Sometimes I don't know what's going to come out, but I definitely want to give value. If you come to my channel and watching my videos, I'm not selling you anything. At the end of it, there's no sale, there's no hook. It's just, what can I offer the world? And in the past, like I think now I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers, and I think people enjoy it, right? So
Mhm.
that's why they're kind of like conversational, right? And so
Mhm.
those 10 businesses ideas, I think I went on a rant or whatever on, because you can, think about all the opportunities that right now, like, the way people receive information, the way people receive anything is different. And you have to be, walking around with, like, that's the way I am. I wake up in the
Mhm.
morning and I have $1 million idea every single morning. And so,
Wow, you should write them all down.
yeah, I
Yeah.
do. I do.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I drive myself crazy. I drive myself crazy. But,
No, but
I
they
did
were
this video.
also so common sense too. I
Yeah.
mean, you said, okay, well, what's the first thing? Everybody's home, they're online. What are some services or products that you could provide to people to make them more comfortable? Like maybe a line of clothing, or people are into wellness and fitness, and so maybe you can do wellness videos. Or I just thought, wow, like just to sit and think about the circumstances and then brainstorm what could we do to not necessarily capitalize, but again, you want to make it comfortable. There are a lot of people anxiety, anxious about the whole COVID thing, scared to go out. We're told to stay home, not to travel and such. Well, home doesn't have to be a prison or a jail, right? It can be perhaps an enjoyable place to be. So you're always very upbeat and positive about everything, and that's what I love about you, Alfonso. It's just you've got high energy, and I mean, um, your thought pattern is so upbeat. Your mindset is in a different spot from other people I've known and met. So maybe that's another quick question: is how do you keep yourself upbeat and positive? Is that a routine that you have, physical or
Yeah.
other things you
So
do?
it's kind of like a process, right? Like when things happen to you, like there's also the people that are in denial, right? Oh, it's gonna go back to normal. Everything will be okay.
Mhm.
No, it's not okay. Like none of this is okay, right? So I always tell people that the faster you can get to truth, the faster you can move forward, right? So sometimes you just have to stand in your truth, right? And say, you know what? life will never be the same again. And I did that March 15th, right? So I went through my, many levels of emotions, right? With it, like when I was angry, like, how can they do this to the world? Why would they shut down a world? And then that's it. Like, I was done. I was out of my poo-poo place. And now I moved on to what can I do now? And I did a video, getting a return on investment, because that's what it's about, getting a return on investment on the COVID-19. And so what we have been given is a very special gift of time. And if you look at it, time is the most valuable thing that we have, is the most valuable commodity that there is, that exists. I mean, anything in life, there's an abundance of. There's an abundance of air, water. There's an abundance of money. If you lose your money, you can always make money again. But time is one of those things that is so precious, and everybody has been given that same gift. And so the question is not whether or not we're going to get out of this, because we are. The question is going to be, what are you going to look like at the other side of this, right? How can you get a return on investment on the time that you have been gifted? And when I look around, my life is better as a result. Like the earth was breathing. I think we all just needed a breath, like, and I was saying this to someone the other day, like, I was so busy speaking and, doing my real estate and my businesses and, going from one place to the other, that I don't think I could have made a conscious decision on my own to slow down, right? To just kind of like take time for myself. And so it was forced on me. And now, in this past 2 months, I've read like 15 books, I lost 30 pounds.
I saw that. You look amazing. Yeah. Congratulations.
That's sexy, incredible. Right? Sexy.
Absolutely.
Everybody in the comments, put thumbs up if I look sexier than before.
Does he look sexier than before?
Okay, well, we'll see.
And we got some thumb up. Yes, you do. Okay, perfect.
So and then so I started sharing it. I lost. I started to think of. So when you have time, you can play with this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And so I went to the YouTube channel, and everything that I was doing, I was basically just sharing the things that I was doing, that I was going through. I did a video, how to lose 20 pounds in 20 days. You can go and watch it without dieting or exercise.
Right.
And if you watch that video, you'll enjoy it. And you'll be like, oh, yeah, that makes sense, right? And, all these things that I was accomplishing in my life and what I'm doing, this is how I was able to just move forward beyond, March 15th.
Mm-hmm. No, I that's very admirable and it's wonderful. And I think I thought if for myself, because Doug and I are semi-retired, we still get involved in real estate, but quite honestly, the whole COVID thing really didn't change a lot of what we did anyway. I know we were told to stay home, but we had a vacancy in one of our units and we had to go. We were doing all sorts of renovations and such. It was just before they
just feel bad on that. Everybody was sneaking.
Everybody's sneaking around. But we really didn't change our lifestyle much. And I remember we had done a post and one of Doug's aunts had said something, what a part of staying at home don't you understand? And I said, I can't. I have a business to run. I have to keep going. And, case in point, education is so important. And as you know, most recently got my mortgage agent's license too. So I wanted to keep learning. I wanted to keep doing this stuff. Oh, thank you. And there's all sorts of sexy, by the way, here, and thumbs up.
Yeah.
Before I forget, I wanted to just acknowledge there's been a couple comments about your YouTube videos. So Nagesh wrote, I loved Alfonso's investor versus consumer mindset video. And Harry wanted to acknowledge we also like your dancing skills. So there's a couple of dancing videos there. I've seen those.
Yeah, so this is another thing. If I was going to do something, anything that I do, I have to have my own personal twist to it, and it needs to be fun. So some of the videos you'll find on there is just me doing silly things.
No, but yeah, that comes with, it's a balance, right? That serious with the the entertaining. It's a nice healthy balance. So well, that's great. What I wanted to just ask you as well with, I mean, we're already almost 10 to 8 here, but so this has come. It's very fluid. It's been great. What message would you like to leave with everyone about where you see real estate heading in the future? I mean, the government of Canada just announced there's no rate change on the Bank of Canada rate, and they're optimistic about the economy turning around in the fourth quarter and such. So I think they see the light ahead. What are your thoughts? What's going to happen in the industry?
Well, I think for the most part, the real estate, there's always a lag. There's always a lag in real estate. And during during the past, 2 months that people have been in quarantine, pretty much no one was able to do anything, right? And so at the very, at the first 6 months, I say, from now to December, you're going to see a lot of the activity is going to be people that would have done activity, anyways, right? Maybe they sold a house or just waiting. They can't look at a house. Now they're getting out there. There's activity. So the activity that you're seeing right now is activity that was from March and February, right? And so in real estate, there's always a lag. Here's the issue. And again, no one has a crystal ball, but the money that's being dished out right now, there's going to be consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know it. I mean, people are taking their CERB checks and their CBA. And I mean, my companies qualified for two of my companies qualified for $40,000 each. You know what? Why wouldn't I take it? It's interest free. I mean, we qualify. But there's going to be consequences. There is going to be consequences. And, depending on what side you lean on, do you think that they're going to print more money, right? Quantitative easing. If they do, there's going to be some major effects to the economic system that we're currently under, right? People are going to lose. They're going to lose confidence, and you'll start to see hyperinflation in a very, 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 very big way. Now, hyperinflation, depending on the asset class that you're in, right? If you're in the stock market, you're going to be in trouble. But if you are in real estate or any hard asset, really, if you're in gold or hard asset, you want to have as much debt as possible, which you'll see that, perfect example. Since March, you had a increase of people doing refis with CMHC. Why do you think that is? You want to have as much debt as possible if there's hyperinflation, because that's the only way you can hedge, right? And so if you're sitting on cash, your cash will be worthless. But if you buy real assets, this is where you're going to see that you can hedge and overcome anything that comes our way. Now, here's the thing. I think the people that are going to get beat up first, and this, again, my own opinion, it's going to be the housing market. Okay, housing market first. You're going to see there's going to be hotel chains going bankrupt. You're going to see mini malls and malls just closing up shop. Now, it doesn't mean that they're going to disappear. It just means that they're going to change hands, right? And so you want to be in a position that you're ready to take on all of the opportunities that are going to be coming our way. But when are the opportunities? Is it right now? I don't think so. I think it will be 6 months after all the lights go back on, right? And so right now we're still in a state of emergency. The government's still dishing out money, and so people are okay. Summer, right? Summer, people starting to get happy, right? They're walking out there with their linen, enjoying their CERB check, right? Yeah. And everything that that summer has to offer. And I think maybe somewhere around maybe after Christmas, someone's going to ask a very important question. Guys, how are we going to pay for all this? And then this is where you have scarcity, the market, everybody starts pulling out, and I see that you'll see things worse than they are right now.
Yeah, I can see that, with inflation that, food prices may go up. We already have an issue with, migrant workers not, borders being closed, so migrant workers can't work the fields, and there's farmers who've not been able to get their crops, like, asparagus farmers or, some of the seasonal crops are
Isn't
not
that
being able to come
interesting?
in.
But isn't that interesting? We have all these people that are unemployed. Why don't you go work in the field? No, no, no,
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
It doesn't pay $2,000 a month to stay home. So
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And
yeah,
so it'll be really interesting to see. I think the biggest thing we're going to see right away is price of food will go up, and or I mean, we saw some of the shelves in the stores empty for various reasons, but we have to remember there was that big rail strike as well before COVID hit, and I think
I
there
totally
was,
forgot about that. I totally,
yeah,
you just reminded me of that.
yeah,
I'm like, yeah, because there's something wrong with the supply chain. Something has
yeah,
gone wrong with the supply
exactly.
chain.
It was the supply chain that I think we were feeling the domino effect of, and then COVID hit, and then I mean, now you can go. There's toilet paper galore. Like everybody's realized they bought more than they needed, would possibly use in the time that they've been at home. So,
Are you
um,
are you kidding? Are you sure they bought more than they needed? I don't know.
well, and just prices have gone up, right? That I don't want to. I hope price gouging doesn't happen, right? I hope that something I can understand. There's been stories recently about some places needing to add additional costs because they've taken extra precautions. They're sanitizing their, every mask supplies, PPE supplies they've had to give to their employees and such. So it comes at a cost. And I'm willing to pay a little bit extra, but I don't want to spend, if I bought raspberries for $3 a little pint, I don't want to be spending $8 for a pint 3 months, 6 months from now, right? So
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't come to that, but I think that that's a possibility. But real estate wise, I mean, I think there's pent up demand. I think there's a lot of people who are interested in selling, and acquisitions are still very popular.
Yeah. So being part of the mortgage industry right now, you see that
Mhm.
the lenders are very scared, and they're
Mhm.
being very strict with their underwriting.
Yeah.
That creates an opportunity for creative financing, which I
Mhm.
love,
Yeah.
and I just love doing deals with sellers, and so people will only buy what they're approved for, right?
Mhm.
And so in 2008, it wasn't that people didn't want to buy properties. It wasn't that the demand wasn't there. It's that the money market dried up. Like the money available to lend or
Mhm.
mortgages, that dried up. And so when the second that happens, no one can buy property. And so the only thing that's left is people to negotiate with each other.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, that's absolutely been the case. Insurable mortgages are so popular and the rates are really low. But anything, you know, more than that, they're taking extra precautions. They're lower loan to values. They're scrutinizing, especially rental properties. They're not even only scrutinizing the prospective borrower, but the tenant profile. They want more information about the tenants too, just to
Yeah.
know if they're going to be working, are they going to be able to pay the rents, all that kind of good stuff, right? So, um, okay, so what I wanted to do real quickly was before I open it up to everyone, I wanted to do just some final rapid fire questions of Alfonso, just so that everybody can get, can get to know the wonderful man that we've all come to know and love. So I've got some questions. I only shared a couple with you, but the intent is if you can do like a 1 or 2 or 3 word answer, it's just kind of meant to be what's comes to top of mind when you think about this. What's your favorite movie?
Pursuit of happiness.
Oh, I thought you were going to say your favorite Christmas movie, the one you watch at Christmas time.
Oh, Back to the Future.
Back to the Future.
I have so many. I have Back to the Future. I love the Rocky franchise. Don't get me started on
Yes,
Rocky.
yes, yes. But Pursuit of Happiness, I
Yeah,
wouldn't have
yeah.
thought that you'd say that.
Back
Uh,
to the Future is it's actually a sacred thing here in my family with
yeah.
my two youngest girls. They just we have like a Christmas Back to the Future marathon.
Most beautiful country you have visited, and you have visited many.
Woo! It's hard because you always tend to go to the last place you went to, right? So I was, the last two, like kind of like exotic kind of places, I think Greece and Morocco.
Very nice. Your favorite food?
Ooh, favorite food. You got me there. I have so many. I would say fried chicken or
Caesar salad? Steak? No?
Yeah. Well, steak is like dinner,
Yeah.
But I would also say something that's close to my homeland, which we call it pupusas. If you don't know what it is,
Okay.
I want you to Google pupusa. And the second they allow restaurants or they open up restaurants, you go get yourself some pupusas. It's kind of like a tortilla filled with cheese, meat, chicharrón. It's really, really delicious.
Nice. What is your favorite app on your phone right now?
My favorite app on my phone, believe it or not, is Zoom.
Good answer. Good answer.
I'm on it all the time. I'm on Zoom all the time. And second, I would say TikTok.
Oh, yes, you're a big TikTok user too.
So if you guys have TikTok, please follow my TikToks. Okay? Alfonso Cuadra, at Alfonso Cuadra.
What book are you reading right now?
Right now, I am reading Becoming Supernatural, Joe Dispenza. Really, really good book.
Is it a mindset type book or?
Yeah, it's definitely it's kind of the how would I describe it? Well, he's very big on meditation, and he has many different forms of meditation. And I just started the book, but this idea that you can cure yourself and your illnesses and pretty much accomplish anything you want, doing meditation.
Very good. What product would you seriously stockpile right now if you found out it wasn't going to be sold anymore?
Apartment buildings.
You get a whole bunch of those. Oh, good stuff.
What? Yeah, pretty much. That's what came to mind. You said what would come to mind first.
Yeah.
I mean, everything else. I mean, I didn't buy toilet paper. I just bought it like when I needed it. I don't know what I would stockpile. I'm not a stockpiling person.
If you inherited a private jet, what would you do with it?
I would travel the world and inspire people to create change in their lives.
And along those lines, what country have you not yet visited that you want to visit?
On my list of countries, definitely India. I want to go to Russia. India, Russia, and Australia, I would say the top three that I haven't gone to yet.
Very good. And last question is, what is something that you have learned in the past week?
What is something that I have learned in the past week?
Either learned about yourself or learned professionally or?
You know what? That you're putting me on the spot, but
I left that for last.
I learned something every day. So, so just reading this book, Joe Dispenza. So I'm very big on meditation, but I didn't know how vast that world was and all the different forms of meditation. And do you know that you can meditate while walking?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
can.
I didn't know that. I had no clue, right? So to me, this is like a whole new world for me. I've been meditating for years, but this is something that is really different, and I'm really excited about it. When I'm reading, I'm just like, I'm taking in the information. So yeah.
Well, the reason I mentioned that is because I remember reading about people who like to go for walks on the beach. And it's very soothing, and if it's a gentle surf or what have you, just the walk and maybe the sun glistening, it's a sunset or what have you, it can be very, very soothing and like meditation for people too. So I want to now open up the unmute everybody, and just let me go through the questions real quickly. So Tony said he'll take you around Greece, Alfonso, especially the islands. He wants to take you to
Do it.
Santorini.
Let's do it.
Okay, so let me just go into my settings here and see if I can unmute everybody all at once. Okay, so is it letting me do that? Mute automatic. Huh. Well, it's not letting me unmute everyone all at once. But if you have any questions, please, by all means, unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself and ask the question.
And ask a question. So does anyone have a quick question for Alfonso that you'd like to speak? Okay, who's all here? Harry. Okay, Harry, go ahead.
Yeah, finally, I get to listen to you. That's great. I have a question for you. As you mentioned that you have been investing in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Ontario, New Brunswick, and one of your criteria is cost per unit. So what range you're comfortable with the apartment unit per unit in different provinces? Do you have any?
Yeah, so I would say just to answer quickly, based on the model that I'm after, and I needed to cash flow in a certain way. I needed to have my repairs and maintenance. I need to have my vacancy, my property management, all included in there, and still have cash flow. I'm always looking for a cash-on-cash return of above 6%.
Mm-hmm.
It really only works at 100 units and below, right? Anything $100 a unit, $100,000 a unit and above. Really, this is where you start to sacrifice cash flow. From my experience. Now, as you going across the country, you'll see different variations of that. My lowest cost per unit in my portfolio is about $20,000 a door, but that's like a unicorn kind of deal. And then my most expensive is probably around like $120,000 a door.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Across all provinces, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question they'd like to ask of Alfonso? He's done an amazing job. I feel like I wish I had something alcoholic. I would have enjoyed just drinking with you. I know you're not drinking alcohol right now, but
yeah, you know that, right? So it's been over 2 months, right? Because
yeah.
I need to be so sharp. This is like this past 2 months has been the most productive time of my entire life, and so I need to be really hyper focused and sharp. And I decided not to drink alcohol for this time.
Very good. All
Sandra.
right, Sandra.
Hey, Alfonso, how are you?
Hey.
Miss you.
Yeah, miss you too.
Joe has a question for you, actually.
Yeah, Joe, good to meet you.
It's good to meet you too, Alfonso. So I want to take you back to earlier on in your career as a real estate investor. What would you say is one, your most satisfying deal when you were starting out, and then maybe highlight your biggest mistake?
Okay, highlight the biggest mistake. There's a lot of mistakes. One deal, like actually one of the I like to use the word sexy because I just love that. Just it describes everything that I'm feeling in one word. I would say my sexiest deal was happened actually last October.
Oh, okay.
And, yeah, so it's a 36 unit building.
Nice.
That I was able to negotiate down to $675,000.
Wow. Wow.
Wait, I'm not done. We're not done.
Okay.
I'm not done. Get sexier.
Nice.
With a 90% vendor take back. So 90% seller finance at 3.5%, interest only for the first year without any personal guarantee.
Wow.
Wow.
You got a magic wand or something, buddy.
Yeah, so that's like I would say it was a really, really fun deal to do. It took me about a year, and it really fun. And then my biggest mistake, I would say I make mistakes. You learn from your mistakes.
Yeah,
I think one of my biggest mistakes. I'm going to go back 20 years 20 years ago, is not scaling up quick enough, right? So I wasted a lot of time because I didn't have the confidence really at the beginning to look at 10 or 20, and you know, that I would say that was my biggest mistake, because I'd be at the 7,500 units right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, man.
Yeah, no worries.
Oh, sorry, Harry, just before you do that, Sasha, you had unmuted there. So do you have a question for Alfonso?
No, I didn't have any questions off the top of my head, but just before you signed off, I wanted to let you know that your energy and charisma is amazing, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come and share all of this with us. It's been very insightful, so thank you.
Oh, I appreciate that so much. I really do. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Harry has another question for you.
Yes,
Hi,
Harry.
I'm
We're getting
back
to know
again.
each other.
Yeah, we have been communicating. So another question. You mentioned about secondary markets. Some of the markets, where the population is like 2,000, 5,000, and if that building fits your criteria, would you go for that or not?
Yes. Yeah, of course, you want to make sure that you have multiple industries that can support that market. Sometimes secondary markets are supported by a major market, which I really prefer. For example, I have a lot of investments around the Kingston area, around the Toronto area, around the Ottawa area, around the Saskatoon area. So, you want to make sure you're at least within a driving distance to a major market that's supported. So even though there's not much industry there's only 1,000 or 2,000 people in the town, but they all commute to this major market. And so I like that as well. Now, there's other times where I might invest into markets where just like I'm just not sure what will happen, but I'm sure that that if I can underwrite it with a proper vacancy. For example, I've been into markets where I'm buying a building where there's only 1,000 people, right? And it's like, whoa, like what's the worst case scenario? Well, someone says, well, half of the people in your building move out. I said, okay, let's underwrite it based on 50% vacancy. And let's see what those numbers look like, right? Often when I go into smaller towns, you see the properties that have the retail at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll underwrite that property without the retail.
Mm-hmm.
And so if the property still cash flows based on my criteria without the retail would just be gravy. And so, I'm never really affected by these things that happen in the marketplace. You have, you're buying a retail place in a small town, and then a tenant moves out, and then it's going to be vacant for the next 3 years. Well, you know what? If I did my work at the beginning, I was already, accounting for that before I bought it, right? So if I go into an area, 1,000 people, well, I'm going to run a high vacancy, and I'm going to go on worst case scenarios.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a quick question while you're talking. It made me think about, who do you have with you, your power team, when you look at a deal? Do you bring your building inspector with you on site? Who do you bring with you when you go in to take a look at a property to know if it's...
Well, as you know, Anna, you know me for a long time, I rarely look at properties that I don't have under contract. It's just, to me, the negotiations start at the point where someone has signed and we have an agreement, some sort of an agreement. And this is when I can invest time and resources to, go and check that property out. I'll actually go and walk that property, and I'll do a initial walkthrough. Because I've done this thousands of times, I can walk a property without an inspector and actually find deficiencies myself, and go back and renegotiate that deal, get the price down, and then do my inspection, and then we find something else, and then we go back and then we renegotiate again. And so my real negotiations actually start at the point where it's under contract. So my power team, when I show up to the property, I want everybody there. I want the foundation guy. If it's a town that I don't know anybody, I'm going to call beforehand and I'm going to make those connections. I'll have the foundation person. I'll have the window person, the roofer. It doesn't matter. All these people will come and have a look for free, and you know, they will tell me things that are, you know, are going wrong with the foundation more than an inspector will, because that's someone's expertise, right? So I'll have my inspector as well, and that's kind of like my inspection process. Now, when I buy properties, it really depends. Sometimes too many hands in the cookie jar, in the cookie jar, if you will, could get in the way. For example, if there's too many agents involved, sometimes I like the connection with people. I like to know. I spend a long time in discovery, and because I need to really find out about the seller as much as possible to be able to come up with a reasonable offer at the very beginning. So I find it easier for me personally, based on my experience. If you're a newbie, you know, by all means, go, you know, get yourself a realtor. But for me, it's just easier to go directly to the listing agent. Now, here's the other thing. If you can find a realtor that is truly investor focused, because it's kind of, investor focus is kind of this thing that everybody likes to throw around, but they're not really investors, right? They're just like, someone can say I'm investor focused, doesn't mean they're investor focused. The best people that I've worked with are actually newbies that I can kind of mold into what I'm looking for. And last year, 2 years ago, I met this gentleman, 22 years old, brand new in real estate. I was able to mold him, and I bought 3 apartment buildings from this young man just last year, because he kept bringing me things that I actually wanted, and that I would buy, and that I would actually pursue. And we made offers on tons of stuff. And so sometimes you just need someone that's hungry, right? When someone's too successful, like for example, you know, in their brokerage, like they're just like, you know, the people with the billboards. Well, it's hard to get anybody like to talk. You can't talk to anybody. You got to wait and whatnot. So I like to find someone and educate them, get them excited, and then work with them, and then, you know, show them exactly what I'm looking for. And then once a few people, they see what I like, then they start coming back with like deals.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's fantastic. Really great insights, and really great tips that you're sharing with all of us. So I really feel quite fortunate that we've had you here. Very experienced, very knowledgeable, and just a high energy, overall really nice guy. So I'm conscious of the time, so I promised him we'd be done in 75 minutes, and we're approaching that right now. So how can people get a hold of you again, Alfonso?
info@alfonsocuadra.com. I will invite everybody on this call to find me on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I'm about people. I want to connect. If you just have questions, if you just want to, you know, talk about your business, whatever you need, I'm open.
And somebody wrote, don't forget sexy.
Yes.
Sandra and Joe. Sorry, there we go. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. So have a great evening, everybody. I've recorded the session, so I will be posting it shortly. And if you didn't get a chance to see it, or share it with other people who didn't get a chance, or you want to replay and catch stuff that he said that's just pure nuggets of wisdom. So my heartfelt sincere thanks, Alfonso, for sharing your evening with us tonight. And we look forward to hopefully meeting you in person again in the very near future, when things open up a little bit more. So
I'm sure we're almost there.
All right.
Thank you so
much. Good night, everybody.
Everybody,
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Good night.
Thanks, Alfonso. Thanks, Anna.
Bye.